So we're going to let people join in. Hopefully everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. If it's a morning for you, you're brave. I admire you very much. And thank you so much for joining us. We have an amazing panel in front of us, a panel that Manoj was supposed to talk to. Unfortunately, he had a last minute conflict on his agenda. So I am Johan Abadi. I am the head of demand generation for SalesIntel, and really delighted to have three people I admire very much on this first panel of the year for us. The three people being Guy, Nalin, and Maddie, and they'll introduce themselves very, very soon. Actually, I will let you introduce yourself, and then we're going to jump into it. So, Maddie, why don't you start?
I knew he was going to pick me first. Hey guys, so my name is Maddie Bell. I am the CEO and founder of Synapsa, and we build AI agents for go-to-market teams that close the gap between marketing and sales by helping buyers get what they need faster and better.
That's good. Nalin.
Yep. Hey, everybody. I'm Nalin, co-founder and CEO of Storylane. Storylane is a product demo platform that people use to showcase what your product is all about to buyers. Buyers today need to see what your product is doing before they have to talk to sales. They get a sneak peek of what your product is doing. Marketing teams use us to put them on the websites to drive leads, qualified pipeline. Sales team uses them to close deals, to share it with the prospects as well, in sandboxes and everything. So that's what we are, and we've been around for just about 4 years more, and then we have like 4,000 plus customers who use us across marketing and sales teams. Yeah, happy to chat more about what we have learned.
Thank you so much, Lane. Guy.
I am an AI coding aerospace engineer who made the straight line to CMO, as one does when you're an aerospace engineer. Of course, that's the natural path. I spent 15 years in ad tech, and then 10 years ago had the privilege of co-founding and CEOing an AI website personalization company that Webflow bought a year and a half ago. And since Webflow already had a CEO and a CMO, we made up a job that is being out and talking to marketers all the time. And that made up job's name is Chief Evangelist. And Webflow is a enterprise website building platform that makes it easy for marketers, developers, and designers to work together to build, manage, and optimize sites that are visually stunning and build your brand, and also drive revenue through ABM and personalization, coding optional.
Thank you so much. And you'll see why we got these three people on that panel is we want to address the main challenge, what keeps people up at night, has been since last year. It started a year and a half ago, is how do you convert less traffic into more revenue? We all have more revenue or higher revenue goals to meet. Problem is pipeline creation is getting harder, has gotten harder. Buyers are no longer educating themselves the way they used to. They go through LLMs. You have all faced the zero-click search conundrum. The dark funnel is getting darker. There's a lot more noise to deal with. And for many companies, our traffic has dropped 30, 40, 50%. HubSpot, the grandfather of SEO, reported actually a more than 50% drop in the traffic in 2025. So it's pretty well doing more with less is tough. So, but when traffic is getting on your site, it's higher intent. So you can't mess up. Not only in terms of visibility, relevance, personalization, and experience. When they're on your site, they have to have a great experience. So we're going to talk about this with Guy, Maddie, and Nalin. And we'll really start with the visibility recalibration. So SEO, or how SEO worked 18 months ago, is not working for us, for anyone anymore. So how do you recalibrate? How do you change your strategy to not only get the right content, but the right level of visibility to be successful when you get less traffic on your website and people are coming more educated than they were before? And we'll start with Nalin, if you don't mind.
Sure, definitely. So I think you said it right. So I call it like you spend a lot of effort. The CAC is high to bring people to the website today, right? Be it ads, webinars, conferences, events, you name it, right? And then the moment they come on the website, I call this like, think of it like a 95-5. 95% of the people, you're trying to create the demand to bring them in. And then the 5% of the people who are hand raisers and they want to come and talk to you, these are the people coming to the website. Super high intent. They learned about it. You spent all of that effort. Now, for me, when the 5% come, we should educate them as much as possible and don't make it hard for them. And I call it. So what that means is like mostly they're coming in, they want to see a sneak peek of what your product is about also, give them the value, be have a chatbot, whatever that could be able to answer those questions, get an understanding of product because they're not going to come once. And you will be surprised, like majority of the people drop off. 97% of the people come in, they drop off. So, and they keep visiting again and again. So every time they come into the website, your content, the conversations that they want to have, or the product sneaks that they want to see, you want to make it a high touch for them, right? Giving the value, and then at every time of visit. So that has been one thing that we have learned, and that's what we do also, and what customers use us with us with Storyline itself. And then to me, that's a very important factor for you to drive that, not just demand creation, but make it less friction. And the moment those people are excited and they want to chat, I always recommend, again, the two types of buckets of product people are building, right? PLG, non-PLG. And whatever your conversion metric is, I always recommend after they get a sneak peek, drive them to the conversion metric, be it a sign up or talk to a strategist, right? Get them to that flow sooner than having more hurdles. And when I say more hurdles, it's like less of today, we are not looking for SDR qualifications, right? Nobody wants to ask because your website should be the qualifier. It should give everything and get them to talk to the right set of people ASAP. That is important, I've seen. Yeah.
So it's good. It's the right actually segue to have Maddie jump in and talk about what she does. Actually, she does well. Her company does well. Go ahead, Maddie.
Happy to. Obviously, it's a place that I'm obviously personally passionate about the buyer journey. And I think so, by way of background, before I moved into the B2B tech space, I ran billion-dollar brands running scaled go-to-market. And a lot of what we talked about was the path to purchase. And so a lot of people start the conversation around how do I use AI for go-to-market? And they're looking for me to tell them a tool. And they're looking for me to tell them, oh, it's these 6 steps, which I'm happy to do, by the way. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I will do that. But the number one most important thing that I am seeing teams that are winning with AI in go-to-market do is remapping the buyer path to purchase. Like truly getting clear in 2026, how are customers researching and buying your product? And when they get to specific places within your website, what is the contextually relevant conversation they need to have to move forward in that decision? And the reason that that is so important is that historically, right, we would get a signal, right? We all love signals. And we say, oh my God, there's a signal. What should we do? I know. We'll send them a templated email that everyone gets the same template, or maybe it's macro personalized. And it will basically be like, hey, I noticed you did this thing, which means you love me, which means we should book a demo. Right. And the reality is, for 1,000 reasons, that's not how buyers buy anymore. But what we're seeing, and this is where I think it gets really interesting, is we can map out more signals of what, like their behavior tells us a story. It tells us a story about where they are in the buying cycle, right? If I'm reading a blog about how to be awesome, right, that could be pretty high funnel versus if I'm on the pricing page. And similarly, when we start to dig into that and say, okay, well, what is that buyer considering when they're on a pricing page? What are they considering on the blog page? When you map that out, the palette that marketers and salespeople have to create great conversations actually starts to expand. And so what we are able to do in that layer, and this is what we spend all of our time doing, is talking about how do you create guided selling conversations that convert? And here's the difference, right? So for those of you that are like, okay, my site has a chatbot, why is this different? A lot of times I tell this story of if you were to walk into a brick and mortar store, which I know people don't do anymore, and it was a shoe store, and you said, hey, and the salesperson said, hey, can I help you today? You know what 99% of people are going to say? Guy knows. You walk into the store and say, hey, can I help you today, guy? What are you going to say?
Just looking. No.
Just browsing. You nailed it, right? Because I don't want you to sell to me. I don't want you to sell to me. I want you to not know I'm even in your store. But if I said to Guy, hey, Guy, are you interested in buying the new Hoka marathon shoes, or are you looking for the new Nike CrossFits? No matter how he answers that question, I know something about him as a customer, as a buyer, and I can use that conversation and all the skills that sales and marketers on this webinar know of discovery and nurture to get him to buy shoes he does not need for sports he barely participates in, right? Like that's where that's going. And so
you were looking at my feet this morning, literally.
Yeah. And so I think for those of you, like, to summarize the answer to how do you convert more people, our very strong point of view is, look, the average business is only converting 1 to 3% of the demand they generate. 97% of people are exploring and trying to understand your company. And before, you did not have the tools to give guided selling conversations that allow the buyer to say, yeah, I do need these perfect shoes. That has changed with AI. And to us, that's where this magic pinnacle comes, where buyer enablement, sales as a service, is something that we can now spend time crafting and creating and building AI agents that are not meant to spam your buyers, but are actually meant to support and enable their buying decisions and their path to purchase, right? Some need to go talk to Nalin and get a self-serve demo and give you some money. Some need to go talk to your enterprise AEs. Having an intelligent system to understand and get them into the right buying motion, again, elevates not only you and your company, but it's going to elevate your buyer. And we find that when AI is able to do both, people are not mad, people are thankful, and you can get into good places. So that to me is really, how do you do more with less? You give them better buying experiences.
Better experiences on the website for sure. There's just one thing I would say I disagree with you on, Maddie. It's rare when we disagree is we do not sell to people things they don't need. It's never a good experience.
I need you to tell that to my shoes.
This is a B2C discussion. So for I think the B2B
That's fair.
space is you do not sell something that someone doesn't need because it's just not going to end well, ultimately.
Well,
But
and it's a good point though that you bring up, right? We also don't want buyers coming through that can't buy our stuff.
that's
So I
right.
think that's the right counterpoint, especially in B2B, right? Like being able to understand when a buyer is not a fit, when you cannot help them,
Yeah.
is going to save both you and them time. So I actually think there is 1000% truth there of, it's not just how do we get more buyers in, it's also how do we prevent the wrong buyers from clogging up our sales cycles and our pipelines. That's an excellent point.
It's actually a magnificent segue to a guy who is the AEO GEO expert on there. So we talked about when they are on your website, what do you do? But we have to get them to come to our website. And this is the biggest conundrum that people have right now. The biggest challenge people have right now is I have a lot less traffic than I used to. Guy, please help us, enlighten us. What can we do to increase that traffic, to get the right traffic to the website?
I'll share one lens. It is data-driven, well-researched, but it is also a educated, data-driven opinion because we're all learning, because this is a new space. By the way, what Maddie said about really intimately understand the customer journey, I think that is like the it reminds us all that the job isn't to sprinkle AI everywhere. The job at its core hasn't changed. You want to be useful to somebody, presenting something that is meaningful to them in that moment throughout the buyer journey. Both Nalin and Maddie talked about different aspects of that. We all do it in our ads, in our emails, and then we forget to do it on our website. So like, couldn't agree more. To do more with more, to get more traffic to your site, I invite folks to think about AEO as heavily overlapped with SEO. That like some people are saying, hey, SEO is dead. It's all AEO now. I couldn't disagree more. Like good SEO and good AEO, the Venn diagram is heavily overlapped because you want to do just what we were talking about. be genuinely valuable to prospects throughout the funnel. That still gets rewarded. Even though I'll talk about some of the mechanical differences, that ground truth remains. Okay. I invite folks to think about the expansion from SEO to AEO in 4 categories: content, technical, measurement, and authority. And in content, we're going to go from topics that are represented as clusters of keywords to topics that are represented as clusters of the questions our prospects are asking through the funnel. And you know them. You might be getting them as they're engaging with Synapsa. You might be getting them from running an LLM over your sales call recordings or over your sales emails, or by going to an LLM and saying, what do people ask about this category? Create content that answers those. You give the LLM more of a chance to find similarity between the longer queries people are having now, 23 words on average versus 4 words in search, and your content. You want to do that throughout the funnel and at depth, and you want to personalize it so that it's relevant for each person. Okay. In technical, the biggest expansion, keep doing the keywords, but now give the LLMs signals about structure and meaning of your content. Serve it up to them on a silver platter. They are continually, like every business, making a trade-off between how expensive is it for me to crawl your site and how good is the content there? And you want to make this as low as possible. And so signal structure in your content, do bulleted lists, have one H1 and then logically structured H2, H3, H4s. Consider putting the TLDR at the top of the page and add schema. Most of you have probably heard of schema. If you haven't, it is metadata, so visible to the machine, not to the human, that a few startups, Google, Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, and others came up with like half a dozen years ago. And there are hundreds of them that make it easy for you to tag your page and say, oh, here's an event page, here's a bio page, here's a product page, here's a company page. Serving up on a silver platter, here's the structure and meaning of our site. We, and by we, I mean Vivian Huang, who runs our AEO SEO team, added FAQs to the top 6 product pages we have at the bottom. Duplicative content, but structured as questions. Added schema to that. In 2 weeks, more than half of the incremental citations Webflow got came from those 6 pages. We have thousands of pages. Those 6 pages got more than half, and they got 24% more traffic in 2 weeks. Hard to overemphasize how valuable this can be. In authority, you shift from backlinks, which still matter. Why? Because the LLMs are often running a search before they are using those results together with their pre-training to reformulate a result. 52% of Google AI overview citations rank in Google's top 10 search results. So like, continue being great at search. Now, you also will incrementally value more plain text mentions on other sites. Be in those top 10 lists. Have other people saying, that Storylane and Synapsa are awesome. The LLMs are looking for consensus. They're like, oh, a bunch of people said this, it must be true. Each one of those is like another repetition when you're teaching your kids something. Digital PR is therefore back. Go do the podcasts, the webinars, the blog posts. Have your executives go out and speak more, put more content out there in the world. And then have all that pointing back to a visually engaging, stunning site. Why? Because the LLMs, they can sense authority, both because did you bounce back as soon as they referred you? So can Google search. And because 2 of the big ones have browsers that are running LLMs in them all the time. So they can see, did you stay on the site? Was it valuable? Last bucket measurement, where you go from keyword ranking, which just doesn't exist in paragraphs of text, to how much LLM traffic did I get and how well did it convert? Typically very little and growing rapidly, and very, very well. That you do with your existing analytics tool. And then you get a new analytics tool, maybe SEMrush, Ahrefs, maybe Profound, Scrunch, or a bunch of others. And you measure, for the questions I care about, did I show up? Then what was my share of voice relative to competitors? And then 3 things that just don't exist in search because they were using our words. And those 3 things are, what was my message pull through? Was the sentiment positive? And was it accurate? So Johan, I invite folks to think, hey, content measurement authority and technical. And if you want more on that, webflow.com/AEO, there's no pitch. Rather, you can put in your domain name. We will run a dozen agents, 1,700 long line prompt set of prompts to go assess your site against these 4 categories. We made up 5 different levels of maturity to give you input and feedback and suggestions on what to go try next.
Thanks, and I've done it. I do it regularly. I learned that from you, the FAQ on all of the pages. Actually, we're putting
Has it
FAQ
worked?
on our pages. Yes, but for some reason, we are not as popular as Webflow. So the impact has not going to be has not been as big, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. I mean, in AI times, give it 48 hours. I think that's what
Yeah.
we're counting on.
Yeah.
It's so fun, Guy, to listen to you too, because from my end, right? Like I always think about this as you have it's like baseball, right? Like you have the awareness drivers that are throwing 97-mile-an-hour fastballs over the plate. You have to catch them. And I just think about how much context is now going to be available to you just based on the source, right? Your point about, hey, if they're coming in from an LLM, again, the conversation you want to have with them is very different. This is an educated buyer. And so, we've done a lot with signals. Bet you all have CRMs full of signals, but have we really taken what that means and turned that into a conversation? And that's what I get so jazzed about, even just hearing you talk. It's so cool. So cool, guy.
You make my little brain think. As we personalize experiences, we often tell folks, hey, go create an audience for somebody who showed up at your site more than X times in Y days. If they showed up, I don't know, 4 times in the last 2 weeks, they're probably interested. You made my little brain realize, and if they came from an LLM, they may very well be similarly interested. And so you can be, to your point, have a different conversation. You could be more aggressive in saying, talk to sales. You can talk to them about MoFu or BoFu content, not just top of funnel tofu content.
And for those that don't know what we're saying, because you're like, okay, cool, what does that mean? It literally means that you can pass UTM parameters into AI agents on your site to say, this is where this person came from. You can enrich their data in seconds. You can then use that to create a picture of their behavior, whether they're repeat, what company they work for. And you don't just straight up say, hey, I've done all this work on you. Let me tell you what it is. Absolutely not. But you can use that to predict and hypothesize what conversation is going to move them through the buying cycle. And so I think that's what's so cool about what Guy's talking about is if your signal layer is super, super strong and you know where buyers are coming from, it allows you to ingest that into your system and use that to play it back to customers in hyper relevant ways, which is super cool.
Yeah. And in my mind, that's like varsity usage of all the data you have. The LLMs are not giving us what search does, right? We don't have Google Search Console equivalent. We don't know the queries, which Google gave us for a bunch of years. I very much believe we will. I think we are watching a pattern very similar to those of us, myself included, who lived through the late 90s, early 00s with search, where there were many players, things change rapidly, to fewer players, lower prices, more data being shared. The economic incentive is too strong. So we'll get GSC. We already saw ads. We're going to get e-commerce because it makes sense to do. Johan, sorry, you've been wanting to jump in.
Not at all. Actually, you brought me back to Lycos, Alta Vista, and all of
Oh, yeah.
before Google took away the.
I was at Yahoo while you were there.
Yeah, this is a wild. I mean, there are a lot of similarities with this, but I would say one thing though. It's true that based on where they come from, you should be able to have a more educated interaction with them. You have some context. Be very aware of what these LLMs are saying about you. It's happening. I mean, at times I'm checking what the LLMs are saying about SalesIntel. Sometimes they get their information from something that is 2 years old. I mean, it's just wild. Got to be careful about that as well.
So
one
to
thing
Maddie's point, oh, go ahead, Nalan. Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say one thing, which is like, Guy, I think you mentioned is like thing that stood out is the FAQs that you mentioned is just for people listening. It's such a simple thing, but it easily drives quick value conversion for you, and we miss out on this. Like it could be very simple how to do certain things, right? We tried this experiment in Storylane. With FAQs. Then what we realized is we turned that FAQ into demos itself, and we started pushing this out, not for Storylane, but even for other common marketing tools, sales tools, specific to your ICPs. And that led to a lot of, we increased the traffic of around close to 10x just for this year. I mean, we should have called it AEO at that time. And this is like, essentially, it's such a a great way for you to drive your ICP traffic was looking around it. And FAQ, I think if it makes sense for your product, what you're building, I highly recommend starting to do that because it's just a quick and easy wins that you're out there. And LLMs are looking at FAQs nowadays, what we're seeing as well.
One
Bill,
one thing that Guy mentioned that it was quick, but I think those that are listening to this, like when we give webinars, I know this group wants to be like, hey, what can you take away and go do right now? Eat without stack, right? Um, so in our world, right, we not only build the AI agents that are going to go talk and nurture and convert and qualify and book the buyers, but we actually run that all the way through. And that same AI agent is the one that does the meeting recordings. And the reason that we designed our system to do that was not necessarily because we wanted to compete with all the meeting recorders in the world, which is why this comment will benefit you no matter what meeting recorder you're using. It was because we wanted the AI to have a source of new data. A lot of you guys are scrambling to organize your old data, which is a good exercise. Do that. But what you also want to build is a system that updates the data that you have to create a flywheel. And the number one place that you can start to understand how the answers to your FAQs are evolving is through, and I apologize, that's a ring coming through my computer, is through your actual call recordings, right? Because that's where you're training people on the latest and greatest product answers, the latest and greatest features. And you can essentially mine that data and operationalize that data and push it back into the top of the funnel super, super easily. If you have the right setup that's actually pushing that in. And what that does is it creates a knowledge base that is self-refreshing. And that's what's really going to empower and enable you guys and put a human in the loop, approve those changes. But for those of you that are like, what facts do I do? I promise you, look inside your sales meeting calls, figure out what questions your buyers are asking. And that, I mean, give it to Guy and Webflow and magic will rain from the sky. But like, I would not underestimate what he said about mining your meeting intelligence, because I think in 2026, you are going to see that be the flywheel.
it resonates so strongly. The sales calls as the like, we wish the LLMs were telling us directly. Now with the measurement tools, we'll see, are we showing up more? But did it land? Sales call is pure gold there, Maddie, just as you said. Resonates very, very strongly. Johan, you mentioned 2-year-old info. To what Maddie said, hey, we can have an impact tomorrow. I mean, literally tomorrow, not metaphorically tomorrow. With search, you had to wait months to build credibility. Now you can have impact so quickly. Fine. The dark side of that, the harder part of that, is less often the 2-year-old info. I feel like that happens, but it happens rarely. What happens more is, I know this doesn't apply to anybody on this call, but if you had out-of-date info on your site, that has an impact now. Or if you change your positioning, that has more of an impact. Like if you had out-of-date info and somebody said to you, you know what, maybe you should take that down. In SEO land, you'd be like, over my dead body. In AEO land, maybe, because it's actively inflicting harm. And the last thing I'll share, Nalan, you were talking about the FAQs. Another one that is a potential, pardon me, quick win that we, again, Vivian ran, was to add auto-generated table of contents, just using H1, H2, H3, pardon me, onto our blog posts. Not statistically significant, but in 4 weeks doing that, 59% more LLM traffic, 23% more SEO traffic. She was like, great, I'm just going to put that in our template. And it's going to be everywhere. Easy win, to your point.
Yep. Makes sense.
And I think all of these are, you could say, quick, easy wins. Maybe the impact is not going to be as strong for everyone's side as for yours, but yeah, I've seen this work very, very well for quite a few of the people I talk to. Now, we already started talking about this, so we talked about visibility. Now, when they come on our website, how do you maximize this interaction that you have, and making sure that you convert that traffic? So you alluded to it earlier, Nalin, when you said like you have to give them access to everything that they want to see before they feel comfortable talking to the sales team. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, and I think it goes from the last topic, right? FAQs, right? Why do people search in LLM? They have a problem, they ask a question, and then they come to your website. Now, coming to the website, they already are looking for it. It's super hard to get them into your website. Now you got them there. I believe you need to answer those questions. Your website should answer those questions at that point, right? So they came over here, you should be able to answer those questions. And that means like giving a voice to your website, I call it, right? You should, what we have done is we have our a sales agent Lily on our website. You can go talk to it, shows the demos, and also it can answer questions. It does lots of calls without talking to any salesperson today. It can answer questions, the basic things about like what the product does and everything, right? So that's what visitors want, and they can ask these questions and they can get a deep dive of the product if they want. But the moment they have a more harder questions and strategic things about how I can adopt my product into my organization, that's when really the mindset shift is coming, where a salesperson is involved. And I don't think the salesperson should be treated like a sales, but they are more a strategist. They are thinking at this point, not a qualifying kind of questions. They are definitely asking a lot more strategic questions around them, and in terms of like next level of conversation, right? It's not very top of the funnel, very conversations. And to me, you need to show your product, be able to answer the questions, and then have an agent. The people have chatbots and everything, but not rule-based things, right? Give it like the voice people are able to. That's what we're all moving into today, right? And then we are so used to using LLMs and we are talking, dictating everything. I believe the next thing is your website should also be able to have a voice. People should be able to talk to the website, see what your product is, treat it like an agent. Website is an agent. Treat it like your human who's been involved there before actually a real strategist human comes in. This is basically what I think the best way we should look in 2026 from a conversion perspective, right? And buyers are well aware of what's happening. Treat them they're as smarter than you, right? Don't treat them as like dumber than you, I would say. A lot of times the websites treat them as like you don't know anything. Let me explain type. So we need to pre-position that a lot more.
Sounds good. And I put a poll here while you were talking, Nalin, about getting a sense of how they have been impacted by what we call it the SEO winter. And I promise you, we didn't do it on purpose, knowing that there was a massive wave of really bad weather that would engulf half of the US. It was it just happened. Um, Maddie, you talked somewhat already about the tools and the buyer journey and reducing friction, being personalized when they're coming on your site, knowing where they are coming from. What else would you say? What is the strategy that you would focus on really really hard now that this hard-earned traffic is on your site?
So obviously the website is typically going to be owned right by the marketing team. So this is for all my marketers out there and the sales team. They're yelling at you to make sure that those leads show up ready to rock. And I see you, salespeople, and I feel you. Um, I think the thing that we have to remember, we talked a little bit about this earlier in the call, was this is not a B2C selling journey. It's not, right? Like if I want to buy shoes, I buy shoes, we're done with the shoes, right? It is a B2B buying journey. There is a committee, especially nowadays, right? Like even in small decisions, we operate as buyers in a world with colleagues and approvers. And even on smaller, we're seeing that even on smaller ticket deals, right? Everybody's crunched. Everybody's got to make sure that every dollar they spend matters. Everybody reports to somebody, right? And so I think in the past, our websites had either to be simple, right? This is simply for this one person, and for the love of God, I hope this one person recognizes me and loves me because this was made for you. Or they had to be wildly complex, right? If you're in RevOps, if you go anywhere on the site, there's a place for you. And I think the cool thing about the transformation that we're seeing, and if you take nothing away but this, it is this idea that you now have tools to create unique N of one buying journeys for each person on that buying committee through your public facing tools, right? We talk all the time about our mission is not to force buyers in front of sellers they never want to talk to. Our mission is not to, because you can't win with one without winning with the other, right? Like sellers don't win if their buyers don't win, period. So any tactic you're employing that is pissing off your buyers will eventually piss off you and your sellers. That's just the way it works. And so I think what you can start to realize though is another joke, the number one way to find out why a buyer's on your site, ask them. Ask them. Invite them to tell you, right? Guess what? If they don't need to meet with a salesperson to close the deal, get them over to Nolan's product. Let them have that experience. If they do, because the human connection matters to them, make it happen, right? And the key to doing that, to increasing the aperture in your website, is you have to have the right mechanisms to make sure that the right people get in front of the right people, right? Because things like we talk a lot about what is qualification. Well, just like the definition of SEO has now changed, we have typically defined qualification as a person with a title at a company that has more than this many employees. Like, do not lie to me and tell me that's right. Like, come on, guys, right? It's all firmographic, but you don't know. That's not intent. That's not where they are in their process, who's the decision maker. What we do there is we bring in humans to run discovery. And so those lines are starting to get very blurry. Like, where can we start that discovery process early? Where can we ask questions early? Where can we get buyers into a faster selling motion that's a better fit for them to get those sales cycles going? And so, again, I know you guys want tangible things. So if I said, like, what are the 4 tangible things to improve on your website today? Number 1, feel free to design for your buying committee. Leverage AI tools, agents, chats, and tactics to get the right buyers to the right information faster. Ensure that you have better tools to qualify and route buyers into the proper next step of the sales motion that you've defined. And really start to recognize that you can do more than you used to be able to, because the tools are allowing you that agility that you just didn't have before.
That's right. Yep. If you have the right data, yep, for sure. Yep. You need to have the right data.
And I know a guy that you can talk to about getting the right data, and that would be this guy.
And I think you made the very important point of the buying committee, Maddie. I think the reason I tell you one example we have seen is like with our really sales agent is from the same company, 3 different conversations happen. One person asking it about like product question, the second person asking about like integration sometimes, right? And randomly coming in and first question they ask is, do you have a SOC 2, right? This is no coincidence. I mean, they don't want to get to a salesperson and ask these questions today, right? They want to do that research well ahead, and then they want to talk to a strategist. I have all the data. Now I want to be strategic about it, right? And we're seeing that, and that just resonates with what you're saying is there is a committee. There are 3 different people coming and evaluating it, and not everybody will get on a call to sales, right? What I see is, so they got the answers. They don't want to waste the time, right? And they want to focus on like the next step there. Yeah.
I think the stat is nowadays, and it's growing, 70% of the buying decision is made before the first face-to-face call. And I think that should be something that, and when they're ready to make that call, and this comes from my world where we see any friction, like, do not make me fill out a booking link, right? Like, if I'm talking to you and you say, it's like asking someone out to dinner and being like, so will you go on a date with me? And I say yes, and you say, great, can you make us a reservation? Right. So like, and I'm serious, like if they're doing all this work right before that moment, do not, guys, create that friction. So it really requires curation on the front end and 0 friction on the back end to pull it through. And I think that's where you start to see magic happen.
But Maddie, we're going to set up meetings with people who are not ready to buy. So this is the back and forth we're always getting.
No, we're going to properly nurture them until they're in a buying cycle.
That's
we're
right.
Gonna disqualify them politely.
I'll say a couple of things after Guy gets his angle on this one, and maybe he's going to get a chuckle of a couple of people, and then we're going to go to what everyone wants to know: tech stacks. Recommendation that you're making on the tech that they should look into. So, Guy, before we go to the tech stack, please.
I just gotta say, Maddie, I love your metaphors. They're awesome. And also what both you and Nalan and Johan, you've been saying, where we're talking to human beings. In particular, as you're thinking about attracting traffic, like thinking about that buyer journey, think about the buying committee, that's true north. Everything else is a channel and a mechanism to get there. And yes, we say we want to deliver the right experiences, and then, salespeople under pressure to make a quarter to create not ideal experiences because that's the incentives they have in front of them. And so the more we can do the things you're describing, it resonates a ton to do. Maddie, I couldn't agree with you more that we are capable of creating N of one buyer journeys, not because we are hand curating every single one of them, but because we're using technology to take things we have created, put them together in the right way, to engage people and meet them where they are in their journey so that we can capture attention and persuade them to buy. I invite folks to think about, as you're thinking about improving that experience, think about the spectrum of scope at which you're doing that in a way that I don't think we as marketers tend to do at all. And that is like, I can improve the experience for everybody. Okay, I can run an A/B test. I can pick a segment and improve the experience for them. Maybe it's everybody who saw that particular ad creative, and crazy idea. I'm going to continue that message onto my website. Too few of us do that. Maybe it's for a specific account where I'm leveraging all the intel I have about them, or it's for the individual human. All are valid, and as you consider the how much juice for the squeeze, there are times when personalizing at the segment level makes a lot of sense, right? Like if I'm showing case studies, I'm very happy to do that at the segment level. I want to know the firmographics for that. If I want to tell particular, tofu, mofu, bofu content, then I want it to the individual. Who are they on the buying committee? Where are they in that journey? And I invite all of us to keep that in mind. And I remind us that we all do that in spades to get people to our sites. The emails, the ads, the social, they're all so personalized to the buyer journey, using tools like Maddie's, Nolan's, Johan's to go improve that experience once they get there. I couldn't agree more.
It makes sense. One of the things I always joke about this with fellow marketers is, we talk about mofu, tofu, bofu is the buying journey is a bloody pinball machine. It's not linear. No one buys the same way ever. Your knowledge about the product vary from person to person, from space to space. Like Maddie was saying also, we are not selling strawberries. Some of the stuff we're selling are pretty complex. And maybe you think you understand it because you have been on Gemini and Claude and Grok and they spit out something that was pretty well written. That doesn't mean that you understand what the product can do. Because marketers fail at communicating what products do pretty often. So I would say what you said, Maddie, earlier is ask the right questions. Because most buyers are like, I think, dudes who are trying to get somewhere, but they won't ask directions. They just want to figure it out on their own most of the time. If you ask the right question at the right time, though, they'll give you the answer. And one of the questions I've always asked when I got someone on the call was, how far along are you in your journey? It's a very simple question to ask, and they will tell you whether or not they are problem aware, solution aware, or brand aware right there. So do that. Ask them these questions, and you're going to be ahead of many people. But like Nalin also said, is give them the ability to learn by themselves. Self-service is key, and instant gratification is do not gate your demos. Do not have this trial that requires the credit card and talking to three people before they can start playing with the solution. So yeah,
Don't gate
reduce
your
friction.
chats. We call those Halloween chats.
Yeah.
They're forms dressed up like a chat. They already said they didn't want to fill out your form, and then you just stuck it in your chat. You're like,
Yeah.
Peekaboo, can you give me your email? It's like, no,
That's
I
so
already
funny.
told you no.
That's funny.
You guys are laughing, but the amount of gated chats I see every day,
Totally.
Crazy.
it's
Totally.
But
Yeah,
insane.
you
yeah, yeah,
can't
yeah.
unsee that now that you've said it.
Yeah.
It's peekaboo. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah. It's
Halloween.
peekaboo.
I look like a chat, but I'm a form.
Yeah, kill
That's
the
funny.
forms.
Yeah.
I guess kill the forms. But now let's go to the tools. So we have talked about the strategy. How do you get people on your website? How do you what experience are you creating? Or you should create once they're on your website. Now, what are the tools you recommend people should use to improve that experience and to convert people when they're on your website? I'll start with you now.
Oh, I think you should use all our tools. Let me start with that, maybe. Yeah, every tool, what we're talking about is like does different parts about it. And one big thing I would say is like lean in towards AI tools and don't immediate because it's like I look at it as like an investment you're doing in these tools and think of it like how you're investing for long term, right? There is a lot of value in there. Don't be jumping into quick to like decide within the 2 weeks, am I getting an ROI? I understand there's a person. But my strong recommendation is look at the full stack and start investing in the tools. Like you have Synapsa, you have SalesIntel, you use Storylane. These are the tools that you would use in the top of the funnel for conversion itself. A lot of those from signals that you're getting. And within this, like I think AEO, there is like tools we use. I think like Profound, Scrunch, there are a couple of them as well, where to monitor things, and then from website use the Webflow, right? And we are fully on Webflow ourselves, running it. So yeah, so these are the tools I would recommend to start using it, and then and we use all of these tools already within Storyline as well to drive conversions for us.
Thanks, Nalin. Guy?
To the discussion before about the scope, I happen not to mention that Webflow, we're not here to pitch our products, but whether it's Webflow optimized or another one, a tool that makes it easy to, in an integrated way, ultimately all of our tools are meeting the buyers where they are in their journey. That pinball machine, but still, where are they? What's the information that's useful for them? One way to do that, Webflow optimized, which has A/B testing, personalization, account-based marketing, and one-to-one AI personalization, truly, literally optimizing for more segments than there are people on Earth, even on super low B2B levels of traffic. That is helpful for time-starved marketers. You could take the same ideas, the same creativity, and learn faster and get more revenue out of it. And it works on Webflow sites. It works on non-Webflow sites as well and will permanently. There are other ways to go achieve those things. The intent for this tool was to make it really easy for mere mortal, non-coding marketer to be able to do that at scale easily.
Maddie?
I'm not allowed to, the survey was popping up. Okay, so tools in an agentic stack. One, I just want to acknowledge people hear that and they're either like, yes, give me the elixir of life, give me the secret code, or if I see one more AI tool demo, I'm going to throw myself out of the window. The reality is that when you're dealing with technology that does things, that delivers outcomes, and everybody's like, more revenue, right? It's hard to understand what am I looking for in tools? What does the new stack look like? Similarly, though, the truth is that if you are stitching together SaaS today, meaning this SaaS product does this, then it goes to this, you will be stitching together SaaS tomorrow. And the teams that are starting to get ahead are the ones that are taking their stack into a strategic, scalable system that is more malleable. When you need new things, you are prompting for the things that you need. And the market of go-to-market tech is moving from point and click to describe and done. And so my one thing as a business owner, as someone who is leading my own go-to-market team that we talk about, anytime you can move your scalable marketing systems or sales systems from a place of everything is point and click to now we can get to describe and done at scale, you are going to start outpacing your competition. However, what Nalin mentioned is true. You will have to spend time up front to create leverage in the back. And so to give my like tool set thing, if you have not gotten involved with Claude Cowork and Claude Code, I promise you it is the most meaningful innovation I have seen in working in this category in the last 4 years. To give you a sense of what that means, we said, look, we want to map that buyer journey from the point that they become aware of us for the very first time to the point that they are ready to renew. I want you to interview me and ask me any question you think a buyer will have along that. I spent 30 minutes being interviewed by AI. I took that and we built it in seconds with a prompt into a complete list of all of the email marketing communication that our company needed. We then said, okay, where are all the training materials that we've given on this product? We have hours of product demos. And we said, list out every feature and every problem that it solves and line it up to these specific friction points. And within 3 hours, we had 110 unique conversations across the entire path to purchase. So for me, what I'm trying to say when I say this is the reason that's so powerful is now my system understand my features, my problem sets, my brand voice, my journey map, and I can start to fill in these chunks of buyer journey content and creative that we can never fill in before. So that is the first thing that as marketers, you guys need to do. You need to create scalable content systems that operate on your rules, that use your tone, that have your writing samples. You have to get started on that today. I've seen enough to know that that is a where to play choice. Once you do that, that is how we generate the interest. That's how we run guys' plays. Then you need a conversion ecosystem. You need to be able to ingest the buyer signals and the data of what they're doing, what they're looking at, and you need to operationalize that into conversations and experiences that convert using what Nalin and I do. We have competitors. You can look at them too. That's cool. And then the third thing you need to do is you need to make the actual process of meeting with someone on our team extremely, I'm talking routing, I'm talking lead assignment, that has to be invisible to buyers. And then the fourth stack that you need is that as your buyers are interacting with your sellers, you need a process to get that data, tag that data, and mine that data. So to give you guys a sense of what that means, when our AI Sam records a meeting, we are meta tagging objections, frustrations, value articulations, so that when the marketers go in and say, tell me all the ways that our buyers have articulated our value, we're not even using our own words, we're using theirs, because that is what allows you to close the loop. So if you want tools, you must have a scalable strategic content creation system. I recommend Claude. You must be able to convert on your website. You can use Synapse, you can use Qualified, you can use all kinds of different platforms there. You must have a meeting intelligence layer, and they exist. So, and I say that again, guys, the reason I'm so passionate about this topic is we run, like, I know Nalin, Guy, and we're all doing the same thing, guys. Like, we're all trying to win in the same way. What Johan's data is able to tell our AI is wild, right? Like what Johan and his team, the insights that they have, and the fact that my AI can take those insights and be like, got it, let's go, is insane. And so, yes, it's overwhelming. And if you're overwhelmed, that's real. And that's real. And it's hard, but give it a little bit, put some leverage into it, and just get to that first magic moment. Because for me, like when I saw it write out all of those pieces of content in my perfect voice, the 3 days I'd spent hacking at it felt like 3 seconds. And now I realize, man, now we have something that we can go scale. And it really will. It'll have an impact on our P&L. It'll have an impact on our team. It'll have an impact on our revenue. So I wouldn't say it if I wasn't living it.
Matt, can I jump in, Johan?
Go for it.
Maddie, I couldn't agree more. And I think you were talking about the agentic stack. One, about feeling overwhelmed. I think no one is keeping up. Everyone feels behind. It's early for everyone, even the folks who are doing it like full time. It's just moving so quickly. Fine. One, two, the data Johan's tool provides, the feedback loop of real data from the synthesis of sales calls, they all feed context. And I think as folks get into this more, I think most will appreciate that's actually the hardest thing. That's actually the thing that will be the difference between getting a lot of value out of these efforts and not. And Maddie, you said it. You spent 3 days putting things together. I must admit, I spent far more time creating a corpus of content so that you've got brand voice and tone and so on, and then a corpus of content so you've got the facts about the business and what the product does. And it might be one of those two, but another corpus of content about like, and here are the claims we make externally and how we talk about them and how not to talk about them. Like, that's not work we've done before. I sometimes think about it as like, okay, you hired a fresh college grad that is new to the business world. What are you going to teach him or her so that they can be effective? And organizing that is a lot of work. It is, I feel like it's the parallel. It's not the same, but the parallel to the dirty little secret of machine learning for data scientists was clean data is 80% of the work. This is the equivalent of that. And once you have that context, it's like a superpower. It'll feel like one. And Maddie, to your point, then whether it's tightly integrated systems or a single system, sharing that context is better. It is a better solution. You will have better outcomes. The very last thing I'll share that you mentioned, I think it's important to go from prompt to production. I think far more happens today that is super sexy and cool, but really is prompt to prototype. And that 70% super sexy prototype might be an afternoon, but actually getting it to production is like 3 weeks. We've literally seen this internally. Part of that is context, part of that is connecting systems.
Totally, totally. Thanks. You all said something that you talk about data. You can't do good AI without good data. Do not get on an AI project without good data. It's really important. So whoever you work with, test their data sets. Usually you should probably have more than one data provider. This is usually best practices on this. But before we have a few minutes left, what would you say is the one thing that you'll do in 2026 that is non-negotiable and you will die on that hill if you have to? Maddie, we'll start with you. 1 minute.
We will never miss an interested lead again. A person that starts to show interest in our company will get a curated buying experience 100% of the time in under a minute. That is our 2026 goal.
Love it. Nalin.
Brand. That's one thing that AI will not be able to automate for you quickly. You can build all the content, everything. You own the brand. There's the humans involved. Make sure that's a priority in brand. So get the 95% of the people visibility about what you're doing. And then a lot of things that after that you can automate and optimize for. So focus on that a lot.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nalin. Guy.
We are collectively learning about this space. We are investing a ton in learning, sharing to build a brand. And then, so like what Nolan said, but then what Maddie said, just being better follow-uppers. That manufactures serendipity. It delights customers. It creates better experiences. You are giving people the thing they want when they're looking for it. To the whole themes that we've all been talking about. What about you, Johan? What's your one for the year?
I think, we have talked about that a few times. We talked, the four of us actually, about this with the Manoj. I think it's a buyer enablement era. Yes, we have AI to support us. We have AI to enable us. It makes us feel, very powerful at times, but we have to remember that we're talking to humans, interacting with humans, and good companies answer the questions these humans have and answer them well. And I think that if you focus on helping them, finding the answers to the questions that they have, you will need to sell. You'll build trust, you'll build brand, and you will end up selling better. So for me is shift your mindset from I need to close a deal to let me make sure I answer the question that this person has. And you'll probably end up selling a lot better.
It's funny, right, Johan? I also think you will stand out because, as you think about the dawn of AI and where buyers have been, a lot of people abused it, right? I went into a group of CEOs and spoke, and, I said, like, I want to know, what do you guys think about AI for marketing and sales? And their response was, you mean those spammy cold emails? And we laugh about it, but like the entire category has been characterized by a tactic that, love it or hate it is a very specific tactic. And so I think, Johan, what you're talking about being buyer first bringing that humanness to this and leveraging the tool for good will not only benefit you and your company, but it does make you stand out. And I think that is, where we have drawn some very clear lines of, where we are willing to let our agents do things and where we are just not. And a lot of it comes down to, the true belief of in service of the buyer means in service of sales. And again, I'll emphasize AI is not SaaS, guys. Like these are two very different things, and your ethos, your brand, the way you like to do things will be reflected in the products that you create. Because you'll be able to create the AI that you need and want, and it will reflect you and it will reflect you in your brand. So I love that point, Johan, about like do it for the buyer. And I really think you're going to stand out to buyers. The last funny example I'll give is one of our greatest, believe it or not, things that people love that our AI does is when they say, hey, can we rebook the call? It does it. And literally, because no one in the world is fighting over, no, you reschedule, no, I'll reschedule. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that thing did that, right? So like, it's just these little things, right, that we can serve buyers and delight them and make them feel good. And it doesn't have to be crazy. So that would be my only thing that as you go to that thing.
I appreciate it. I wish I could keep you longer. We'll probably have to do one of this another time on the AI topic itself. Everyone will receive a recording of this webinar. Guy, Nalin, Maddie, thanks again for sharing your expertise and your insights. And may 2026 be a rocking year for everyone.
Thanks for having us. Great to learn from each of
Thank
you.
you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.